it hits me hard and it cuts me deep. I'm 1,000 miles from happiness, 1,000 miles from you. It's a far reach from you to me. I feel the time and the space between. It's 1,000 miles of loneliness, 1,000 miles from you. I'm not around, but I'm not gone. I miss the bed you're sleeping on. I'm 1,000 miles from coziness, 1,000 miles from you.
So every single evening as the sun is starting to set, I always take my pup Sansa for a walk. It's like the very last bit of light of each and every day, and it's so important to me to make sure that we do our best to take it all in. And these evening walks are my favorite part of the day. The hardest part of the days have mindlessly passed us, and now I'm outside enjoying nature and being reminded just how finite our days really are. Now, a few months ago, I decided that I was just going to pull out my phone 1 or 2 times on these evening walks, and if a moment struck me and it made me happy and it made me feel a certain way, I'd pull my phone out and record that moment. Then after a couple of months had passed, I had all these little video clips on my phone from all these evening walks, so I decided why not just like piece together a little edit for it. So that's what I did. I created a simple little edit from all these video clips that I was gathering on these walks, and when I finally had it edited and I had that last final playback of the video, I watched it and I literally almost cried because it made me so happy. To you, this might just be a handful shot of trees and nature and Sansa's cute little butt wiggling back and forth as she walks down the path. But for me, these were actual moments that I was a part of and I lived through. All the sights and sounds from those evening walks were all right there in that video, and it made me feel so at peace. And my biggest takeaway from making this video was that I made a video that makes me so happy and a video that I love so much, and I did it on my phone. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that through the entirety of my video creating life, I absolutely refuse to film anything on my phone. If I wasn't shooting on a high-end camera, I wasn't shooting at all. I was just under the mindset that iPhone cameras were for pedestrians. Like, you can't individually change the exposure values. The dynamic range on the cameras is absolute garbage. So I just refused to use it. But let me just share a quick story with you where my mindset on filming on your phone started to change for me. So I went on vacation with Anna, my girlfriend, and I took her to Kauai. It was a surprise to her. We were celebrating the ending of 3 years of long distance dating, which is super rough, so cause for celebration. So I brought my camera ready to make an epic travel video, and I realized once we got there, I'd left my neutral density filter at home. So I was like, well, if I'm not going to be able to make a video the exact perfect way that I want to make a video, I'm just gonna enjoy the vacation and not film anything at all. So the week went by, one of the best weeks of my life. We had a ton of fun, got a ton of photos, but there was one major mistake that I made on this trip. I realized that I would trade the absolute best photos that I took on that trip for 5 seconds of any kind of video footage. I would do anything to see and hear the wind going through the palms, to see the sun falling behind the ocean as it set, to hear Anna laughing at my stupid jokes while we ate dinner together. Video really is one of the most special things we have as human beings. It's the very best tool that we have as human beings to document our very finite lives and our memories. And to think that we have something in our pockets that we bring with us all the time that can do that, when no other human in the history of human history has ever been able to do that before. The entire trip, I had a high-end Hollywood standard camera, just like sitting in my pocket the whole time. And yes, it's a high-end camera. If you don't believe me, watch Netflix's High Flying Bird. But here I am just refusing to take my phone out of my pocket to use it as a camera because of my ridiculous, like, pretentious video guy ego that we all have. So the next trip that we ended up taking, I made sure to bring my ND filter with me, but I also decided that I was just going to film on my phone at some moments when it felt like a burden for me to bring my camera. And sure enough, my favorite memories and videos that I captured on that trip were all shot on my iPhone. Why was that? I've spent so much money on this expensive gear, and here I am stressing over getting the real footage, while on the plane ride back watching the footage that's on my iPhone, I'm finding myself smiling cheek to cheek, just having a great time watching the footage. For some reason, the moment I pull out, the real camera, there's like this wall that comes up that just like stops me from being able to enjoy the moment while I'm experiencing it. While when I just pull out my phone, that wall never shows up. I just place this pressure on myself to just get the most epic image possible with the real camera. It's this insecurity of having to feel like I need to make everything look perfect or it's a failure. Meanwhile, the raw shots that I took on my iPhone were the perfect shots. Now maybe it's not the most epic shot you've ever seen. Maybe it's not like an epic sweeping through the valley drone shot. But it's a moment that you experienced and a moment that was unique to you and the people that you experienced that moment with. And you know what doesn't matter one bit in that moment? What camera you were using. These simple moments in our lives that we seem to take for granted almost become larger than life when you document them and you record them. To the outside viewer, these shots aren't much, but to you, these are moments of your life that you experience, moments that you saw with your own eyes, and moments that you'll have forever and be able to look back one day and just feel a calming sense of happiness. Now, as a fellow filmmaker, I know we all get tight and bothered trying to make sure that we have the best possible camera for the situation, the best quality sensor, but I'm starting to learn over time that there is just a time and place for that. Now, obviously, you're not going to whip out your iPhone on a client shoot. It's not a Red Epic. It's not an Arri Alexa. It doesn't have the same dynamic range or whatever you want to compare. But the awesome thing about today's phones is that if you apply all the same rules of composing an image properly to your phone that you would use on one of these high-end cameras, you can get a really, really great image out of your phone. Now, before we start wrapping things up, I just want to leave a couple quick beginner tips for people looking to get the best image out of their phone as possible. I shoot at 24 frames per second in 4K, which you can switch on the camera settings in your phone. Next, I always make sure I expose for the highlights on an iPhone. Since the dynamic range isn't great, I'd much rather have clipped blacks with a silhouette look than clipped highlights any day. You can do that just by tapping the brightest part of the image. Then, like any shooting, I try to shoot at times when the sun is lower in the sky, like the evenings or the mornings. Next, I try to keep my images still and let whatever is happening just play out in front of the camera. The internal stabilization is pretty solid, and you can get really stable images without a tripod, which is my favorite part about shooting on an iPhone. And then when I'm in post-production, I like to take down the contrast of the image a ton because iPhone images tend to be pretty punchy. Like I said, it's a camera, and like any camera, taking the time to learn the fundamentals of filmmaking and composing an image first is going to be so much more valuable than the time you take to research what gear and what camera specs and like all that type of stuff. So today, like if you take the time to learn those fundamentals, you can get a great image out of pretty much any camera that is on the market today, including the one that's on your phone. So I know this was like a little bit open-ended of a video, but I just wanted to serve as a reminder to you that you have a very capable camera just sitting in your pocket everywhere you go. I know us filmmakers take our gear very seriously, but unfortunately that seriousness can so easily bleed into some of the most important invaluable moments of our lives. But your life doesn't need to be taken so seriously, so stop putting that unnecessary pressure on the moments that don't need that stress in your life. And you'll find that you'll be living a much more fulfilled and happier life. So if all you have is your phone, use it, capture what's in front of you, and you'll have that moment forever. So thank you for watching, and I love you.